How's it going out there? AG Surfer again, back with just a little mini CGC Sweetness. I wanted to show off some of my, what I consider some of my top CGC books. Um, I have quite a few to go through, but these are the ones I figured I'd just break out real quick and show before the year's end. Alright, let's do this. So I've got a couple of X-Men issues here. I've got X-Men issue 101. It's graded at a 5.0. It's actually got white pages. You know, it's the Chris Claremont story, Dave Cockrum, Frank Chiramonte art, and of course Dave Cockrum cover. Origin and first appearance of Phoenix, Black Tom Cassidy, and Juggernaut appearance. Signed by Stan Lee and Chris Claremont on 3/9/14. So I got nice Chris and classic black. And this is where I started really kind of getting into the gold, using the gold Sharpie. I really dig that gold on that front cover. It's just awesome. Stan Lee in gold really shows out. Sorry about that glare. I've got a couple of books in silver, and I'll have those up here shortly. And I'll show you the difference between silver and gold. So it's important when you're getting autographs to test those Sharpies out before you put that Sharpie to the comic book. Test them out on some scratch paper or something. But I'll get into a little bit more of that hopefully with the next couple of books. Newsstand. I think most books were newsstand, like I said. You know, this book being a 5.0, I was hoping it would hit. I'm thinking this book might be a 6 or 7, but one of its biggest flaws. And I bought this when I started collecting comics when I was a kid. And back then I didn't, back then it's in a bag and board, so I didn't take it out, and I didn't really care. It just looked really good, and I didn't spend that much on it. Although back then it probably was quite a bit of money for me. A lot of ums. Anyways, so this book, again, I just wanted to own it. Didn't really, the condition of it looked good. But what I didn't know until I looked at it later, which still didn't really bother me, was that, someone took a pen to it way back when. So that had to have at least dropped it. If that wasn't a grade, that's probably like 2 grades or something. Dropping it pretty significantly. But other than that, I mean, it's a nice book. I really dig it, as I dig most of my comics. But that was a bummer right there. But I tell you what, I would have still purchased the book. It wouldn't have mattered back then. It only matters now because of you're CGCN and you want the highest grade and all that kind of business. But this book is so beautiful. It's got great eye appeal. And there you go. Look at that Stan. You can see part of me in the shadow. That's Stan Lee though, in gold. Damn. Some angles are better than others. They're better than others. But very nice book. Beautiful 101. I don't know if I'll upgrade, and if I do, I know I won't be chasing after signatures, but I believe that book could get pretty pricey. First Phoenix. And then we'll move on over to this other X-Men issue I have. And again, I purchased this when I was a kid, the same comic book store. It's actually a comic book store. I'll go ahead and throw it out there. Fremont, California. It was called the Comic Zone, and there was a guy by the name of Scott that pretty much ran the place. I think he was part owner. Again, I was probably, what was I? I was like maybe 14, 15 years old, collecting with my brother that's a little younger than me. And again, I've got another buddy of mine that got me back into all this and turned me on to CGCN as far as encapsulating the books and doing this back in 2013. Buddy of mine, he's like my age, and then he's got a younger brother that's my brother's age. So all 4 of us were we were really, we're all 4 brothers pretty much, and just loved collecting. Grew up collecting with those 2 guys, and reading all the comics and going to our local comic book store and picking these books up. So, and we didn't care about, it's weird, it's like we didn't really pay attention to condition. We were just buying books to have them. I mean, we knew we wanted the best looking book. We just didn't, we wanted a book that wasn't all crumpled up or ripped and that kind of thing. But we weren't necessarily looking at spine. We were just looking at color and how cool the cover was, And then there was no internet back then, and any of that kind of information. It was like we would just go to this local comic book store and use our paper out money, purchase books. And it just happened to be that some gentleman came in and traded in, brought in his whole X-Men collection. and he must have had from 1 to well over 100, like all the issues from 1 to over 100 of X-Men issues. And I remember seeing X-Men #1 for the first time, and all of us got excited, but we couldn't afford the price that the comic book store was asking. But we could afford, some of these prices on these X-Men issues. I think they were like 10, 15, somewhere $20. I think I may have purchased a $20 book, and that was a lot of money for me back then. I think I had almost had that on a layaway. Anyways, I'm getting too much into it, but I want to thank all those guys, my buddies that my two buddies or brothers, and my younger brother for collecting, and the Comic Zone in Fremont, California. Good stuff. All right, X-Men, Uncanny X-Men issue number 105, and this one I was really happy with. 9.6 just blew me away. I was thinking it might get a 9. I didn't realize it was going to get that high. Still learning about CGC, trying to figure out how they grade and what to look for. But this book really knocked my socks off, and this was one of the, I knew it was in good shape, and I think I paid at the time, again, either $15 or $20 for this book. And again, I got this at the same time I got pretty much all my X-Men from the same comic book store. So we're looking at White Pages, and it's a Firelord, Leandra, Misty Knight, and Eric the Red appearance. Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum cameo. Chris Claremont story, of course, one of the best storytellers out there. Dave Cockrum, Bob Layton art, and Dave Cockrum cover. And I got this signed by, of course, you see Chris Claremont. It's all classic black. Just looks cool. Claremont and Stan Lee. And that is just one of my favorite covers. And this guy would be I'm thinking this guy would be a good first appearance to get, and I believe it's issue Thor. It's the early Thor issues. First Firelord appearance. I'm gonna have to hit that up, and I'm gonna have to go after that Fantastic Four issue sometime, maybe for the first Silver Surfer. So, all right, but that's that book. And it's like when I did my my last couple of vids, I did them early in the morning, and I know my volume or my voice is really raspy and getting over a cold, and my voice really was just not cool at 3 in the morning. So hopefully it's a little sharper, fresher now. And hopefully I got better light because I'm in a bedroom or whatever. I'm not in my downstairs. So another X-Men book. This is a more current one I got a while back. Or actually earlier this year. I got Joe Rubenstein in silver. And you can see the silver's cool. It's alright. It actually comes out good. And this was actually my silver Sharpie pen. I got Stan Lee in blue, and I got Chris Claremont in this nice blue, which is pretty sharp. And this was at the Sacramento, first Sacramento Wizard World Comic Con they just had earlier this year. This was the first one, and it did so well. Of course, they're gonna have one next year. Excuse me. This isn't a real high grade, but it's still in the 9 range. It's 9.2, and of course, it's the first appearance of Gambit, Uncanny X-Men issue 266. Again, Chris Claremont story, Mike Collins and Joe Rubenstein art, and Andy Kubert cover. It's got White Pages, and it's the first full appearance of Gambit. So I was pretty stoked about this. I kind of picked this book up the last minute before the con because I wanted to get, I knew that all 3 of these guys are going to be there, and it's like, what a good time to get 3 signatures. So I didn't spend that much on the comic. I just figured again it would be in the 9 range, so I was pretty happy with that. I could have spent a little bit more and really gone for the 9.8, but again, just happy with this book. So let's put this boy aside. And recently I uploaded a Wolverine video. I felt like I needed to do that Wolverine a little better. I felt like I needed to do Wolverine, just didn't feel right, I guess, with my voice and with the light and everything. So I want to just break out some Wolverines again and do a quick shot of these Wolverine books, because I know I had a few that I left out. This one was kind of tough to maybe look at, but a Savage Wolverine number 5, Baron edition. This is definitely one of my favorite covers. I just thought it was cool, the Dave Johnson. I mean, I love all the red claws. And see, that Stan Lee signature may stand out a little better now in red. And after I did it, I was like, maybe I should have gone with a gold. Maybe I should have changed the color, because it doesn't really pop But it's still pretty cool. It just depends how you look at it in the light. But that Stanley's all right. I just dig the red, and Stan was awesome. And I believe this one was in Chicago also. Did this in the Chicago Wizard World Comic Con back in 2013. Let's set that boy up there. And we go back to the Frank Miller, which I forgot to mention obviously, but everyone would know this is a Frank Miller front cover, along with Joe Rubenstein. It helped out. Again, Chris Claremont Stanley. It's 9/8. And this was a book I purchased from the comic book zone when I was a little kid, and I must have read this a few times, or a dozen times. So for a book that I had since I was a kid, for me to know to keep it in a bag, I kept everything in bag and boards, but to keep it in that nice condition is just cool, and for it to come back a 9/8, even better. Alright, and the Wolverine book I left out was this Hulk, The Incredible Hulk, 340. I've got another issue. This came back in 9/8, so I'm really stoked. My brother's got a book. I turned it in for him. Same book, came back in 9/8. It's just an awesome looking book. My brother, though, I got him Stanley in black, and it looks really good. White pages. It's Todd McFarlane. I decided to try to get Stanley in silver, and actually, well, see, from this angle, it looks good. The Stanley in silver is not horrible. But after I did it again, I was like, oh crap, I should have gone gold. Maybe I should have did, classic black would have stood out better. Because silver's just hit and miss. And then again, I think this Sharpie pen was Stan Lee's silver Sharpie pen. Because I offered, I said, hey, I got a silver pen. And the guy goes, oh, Stanley's got one. I'm thinking mine would have been, a little crisper. Because I tested my pens out and they looked good. So there's that. Maybe I'll leave this guy sitting up there for a while to introduce the next book, which we've all seen before. So this is their second battle. That's the Wolverine and Hulk second battle. And here goes the first. Hulk 181. It's just a book I love so much. Loving comics. Just really happy to own one. And it's just such a beautiful book. I'm thinking in the range of 6 or higher. I'm going to CGC it eventually. I don't think I'll get any signatures on it. I know I mentioned Herb Tramp's coming to town next year, but I think this book is just too pretty for signatures. I've seen a lot of Hulk 181s obviously with signatures all over the place, and I mean that's cool, but I think there's just too much going on with this front cover. I'm not worried about value. I just really love looking at this cover, and I know that they signed through here, and again, I think there's just too much going on. It's too pretty. I'm not going to do any signatures. I think that might be, this book will probably be my first blue label submission for CGC, because all my CGCs usually I turn them in because they're doing autographs. Looking at my time, I got to get moving, but I thought I'd also show this one off real quick. Scotty Young. I know it's kind of an older one. Death of Wolverine. The Birth of Wolverine. And we'll close them out with this guy. Alright, hey, all you guys out there, have a great holiday, and I don't want to cover up that Wolverine, it's too pretty, even with the Death of Wolverine. All you guys have a great holiday, and keep doing out those vids when you get a chance. I know this is a busy time of year, and I think I'm going to maybe have this vid and maybe 1 or 2 more, and then I'm done for the year myself, maybe come back next year. Thanks for tuning in, checking me out, for the subscribes, and for the comments. And for the comments, I've tried to respond. I've responded to all my comments. I'm sorry if it doesn't show up that way, because I just learned how to tap on your comment to coincide with your comment. Before I was just adding comments, so I don't know if it shows up on your end. But I have responded to everyone that has left me a comment. I really appreciate it, and keep those vids going. And again, happy holidays, and we'll see you all probably next year. All right.